Remember what they did to Joe the plumber? All they did was ask this guy a question. When Barack Obama came strolling unannounced into his front yard, he just asked him a question. This person actually lies. And the national media, Bill, when's that new videotape of another angry GOP crazy person coming in? We got to get it on the air. Is that what they're waiting for? Is that what's happening? Just, let's get another angry conservative ripping Arlen Specter a new one. Or could it be that just sometimes not very often, the truth doesn't fit the media's script? All the world is a stage. You ever feel like that? You ever feel like what you're seeing on this stupid little box ain't the truth? Here's the one thing tonight. While the media doesn't bother looking into fake doctors, real ones are giving the president scary advice. Let's talk about one of those real doctors. Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, Rahm's brother. No nepotism there. He's also a healthcare advisor to the president. Robert Gibbs was actually asked about the good doc and how much pull he has with the president. Here it is.
Do you know if the president has ever consulted on healthcare with Rahm's brother, Ezekiel Emanuel?
Has he ever
consulted on healthcare matters?
I think Zeke has talked to, certainly to staff and to others about healthcare. I've not been in every healthcare meeting the president's been.
Oh, I really don't know. Here's why this question is important. Because Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel believes that we should calculate the value of a human life and the amount we should spend to keep that life alive. After Sarah Palin's comments about death panels, the left has coined a new phrase, deathers. Oh, wait until the bottom of the hour, because I can't wait to tell you the whole thinking on this one. They are trying to make deathers sound like crazy conspiracy nuts who say that the government is going to come in and snuff your grandmother out with a pillow or whatever. That's not what Sarah Palin was saying. She is right. The deather part of this bill, I believe it's something that the language came from the White House, and it's already in the UK national health care system. It's called over there nice. Oh, we've got to have that. That sounds nice. Although it's anything but nice. Basically, they come up with a number of maximum treatment costs per year to keep you alive. In a recent interview, Dr. Zeke says, about 15 years ago, I did think that rationing was necessary, because of cost issues, but I've come to change my mind. Really? Then why were you talking about it, even in the context of an emergency as recent as January of this year? I mean, did the heavens open up last night and say, Zeke, don't do it? Is that what happened? Because I think maybe a reporter should stop not looking into fake doctors and look at the real doctor and ask old Zeke a question. What was the epiphany? Was it, hey, you know what? I'm from the SCIU. You need to shut up here on that, okay? You know what's happening? Is that what's happening? Somebody should answer the question. This is devaluing of human life, putting a price on each individual. The death panel isn't a firing squad. Sarah Palin made a point, I guess you could say in an inflammatory way. But when you implement a government health system, as they have found out in the UK and everywhere else on the planet, you are left with no other choice. That's just the way it is. Rationing is inevitable, and they know it. When will someone in the media expose all of the lies? Here's Dr. Rand Paul. He is the chairman of the Kentucky Taxpayers United. Hello, Rand. How are you?
Good to be with you, Glenn.
Good to be with you. I had you on the radio show, what was it, last week? When you,
yes.
When you announced, and I spent about 20 minutes, you're running for senator in Kentucky.
From Kentucky, yes, for the U.S. Senate.
Right, and I have to tell you, you may be one of the only politicians that I shut off the microphone and went, I think I agree with him, and I strangely trust him. So either my gut's gone all crazy, or maybe you're the real deal. It's good to talk
to you. It's funny.
What?
It's funny, on the way home, I was reading a little book called Common Sense on the plane, and I thought it sounded like something I might have written.
Oh, stop it, Rand. You know, I'd like to invite you at some point to come on the show and talk, because you are not your father. I don't mean that as a slam to your father, but you have some different views from your father, and I'd like to explore some of those. Anyway, tell me about, am I wrong in saying, without any inflammatory speech here, don't call them death panels, just let's call them what they are. You have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of people. You can't give everything to everybody. Isn't it inevitable that you have to make tough choices?
Well, you know, the president says he's not going to pull the plug on Grandma, but I think what he really means is he's not going to put the plug in the first place, because you have to decide. Some committee's going to decide what is the cost-benefit analysis for Grandma.
Right.
Grandma's not just your grandmother, she's a statistic, and we have to decide what is the cost to society to keep her alive, and I think she won't get plugged in. Her ventilator won't be plugged in if she's 92 years old,
right,
because society may say we don't have enough money to do that.
Okay, there's a couple of things here that Tom Daschle defined his federal health care board in his book Critical, What We Can Do About the Health Care Crisis. Remember, this is the guy that was going to be the head of the HHS. He said, like the Federal Reserve, which worked out so well, the Federal Health Board would be composed of highly independent experts insulated from politics. Congress and the White House would relinquish some of their health policy decisions to it. For example, a shift to more effective drug service would be accomplished without an act of Congress or the White House. What does that mean?
Well, and you're right. It's based on sort of the same concept they do in Britain with the NICE committee. They decide what your life is worth over the final 6 months, and they will only spend about $22,000 on medication. So you have families. You have a guy with cancer right now in Britain who wants a drug that's called Sutent, but it's going to cost $54,000, so they just tell him, you're out of luck, you cost too much.
Okay.
We don't have enough money for you, because the average person is only going to be worth about $22,000 in medicine.
Okay. You know what, I could spend the time, and you know, viewers, you can look up, it's IMAC, and there's also the FCCCE. Those are two boards. One's, I think, in the stimulus package. Is it the stimulus package? And the other one is in the health care bill. And basically, these are the panels, the experts that will decide these things. But I'd rather, instead of going there, I would rather talk to you a little bit about, I've been thinking an awful lot about, okay, how do we fix this? How do we do this? First of all, let me just ask you the thing that I have not heard anybody talk about on rationing. Okay, yes, if the government's not making the decision, the capitalist system makes the decision by, I'm sorry, we can't afford that, and you know, you're just going to, grandma's not going to get the heart and lung whatever because she can't afford it. And everybody will say that that's horrible, but if you allow people with money to be able to do it, doesn't that make that treatment eventually, that very expensive treatment, cheaper years down the road? If you don't have that capitalist money pouring in for the new expensive technology, it never is invented. You never grow, do you?
Exactly. I remember as a kid the first calculator, $300, and all it did was add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and now you get fabulous calculator/computer for $30. So yeah, the price comes down as you open up to the marketplace and more people can engage in buying the product. But I think what we have to look at is, some people say, well, we don't want the government making the decisions, and they say, oh, well, now the insurance companies make the decisions. What we need to do is figure out a system where the consumer or the patient gets to make more of his own decisions.
Thank you.
And there are possibilities for that. But our problem is what we do now is we're complaining about Obama's system, but nobody's presenting an alternative. What I'm saying is there is an alternative. What you need is multi-year insurance. You need health insurance to be more like term life insurance. If I have a heart attack today and I have term life insurance, I'm on a 20-year contract. They don't increase my rate. But if I have a heart attack today and survive, my health insurance will be doubled because I'm on a one-year contract. We need multi-year contracts.
The other thing, and Rand, I'd love to have you back and talk about this. The other thing is insurance you should be able to buy across state lines. I mean, hello, it's the government that's wrecking this system. And also, you and I talked about an idea of giving tax breaks to doctors. I mean, here they are. There's these evil rich people. Give them tax breaks if they will go work in a clinic, if they will see, poor people. Let them write all of that off, and you'll let the system fix itself. But the government won't get out of the way.
And that simple tax change could change quite a bit, because not only would physicians be able to deduct service they didn't get paid for or that they did voluntarily through charity, you could also get out of the way the middleman, the Medicaid system that is collecting all the taxes, swirling it around in your state capital and sending about 50 cents back to take care of people. All of a sudden it would be 100% of it taking care of the patient instead of 50% of it being lost in the bureaucracy of government.
Okay. Rand, thank you very much. Again, running for the Senate in Kentucky, Rand Paul. Now